Hello, yes. Welcome to Angular 8 tutorial. And today we are going to discuss attribute binding in Angular. We are at session 10. Before proceeding with, I would request to please visit to my previous tutorial, which is about property binding, because you can just correlate the previous with the current one. Okay, so let's start with. Okay, so attribute binding is nothing but it is one of the strongest, I would say, one of the core binding concept we have in Angular. And like we had discussed also in interpolation and property binding. Okay, so basically attribute binding deals with the attributes. So every HTML element has several attributes, so it deals with those. And okay, so before moving into the HTML attribute part, I would like to, give you some of intro about the DOM, basically what DOM stands for. Okay, so DOM is stands for Document Object Model. What it happens internally when an HTML page is getting rendered. Okay, so it prepares the document object model like let's suppose you are having, there are like one text box, one button, one table, okay, in your HTML page, and when it is getting rendered, it is converted into its properties and its attributes, those we are having in HTML elements, like we have ID, we have all these things, right? We have maybe calls fun, okay. So there are some attributes, getting rendered into properties by DOM. Okay, but calls for is something different one we are going to discuss just in next slide. Okay, let's move into like attributes are defined by HTML elements where properties gets converted by DOM from those attributes by browser. Angular always deals with element properties and events. It doesn't takes care of, attributes basically. When we are writing, we are defining the attribute, but when it converts or gets converted it converts into properties and that it deals with by Angular. Okay, and the events, of course, we have several events. Attribute is responsible for initializes the DOM properties. That's the job of an attribute of an HTML element. So let's when you are just creating an HTML with the attributes, its job is like when the page is going to render dynamically, it just initializes its respective or equivalent property. Okay, so as for our last example we saw, we have been using the disable attribute for data binding. Okay, but it's logically not true. As internally we are assigning the value to its properties. Okay, basically when you would have been remembered, like I will show you just right now away too. Like we have a button and we have a disabled attribute within it, and we are just trying to bind with the enable, which is nothing but it's a code behind a variable we have, and it does contain either true or false and is getting assigned to the disabled. But when it is renders the button, basically the disabled is going to be gets converted into a properties equivalent, and whether it is when enabled is true or false, based on that the button is going to be appear or not to appear. Okay, attributes value can be changed, but DOM properties value can be changed. This is one of the strongest point of yours I would like to highlight you and just try to explain you. Attribute is can't be changed basically, but when it gets converted to property, of course, that value is getting changed dynamically, or when we are just, modifying anything dynamically in the sense when the browser is rendering the elements. Okay, let's see an example. So, if you can see here, like this is the one we have just used in our previous tutorial. So we have a simple button, and when the okay, let me run first. Okay, when the application runs basically uh, the button is going to be visible to us and we can click event. It is not going to be disabled properly because the is enabled property is false over here. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so it is building, it is almost about to finish now, and let's okay, it's all done. Now let's move to the browser and just view the application. Okay, just type the running host. Okay, it's localhost 4200, and the application is about to run. Okay, so there is a button. Okay, even we can click here, you can see the effect, right? So we can click. So yeah, what I'm trying to say, like when we have, basically assigned the disabled property, the thing is when the page just got rendered just away, it is going to convert into a property equivalent, right? And is enable is going to the value for it, right? That's what I wanted to say. Okay, let me explain in another way. It's like in last point we told and we discussed attribute value, you know, uh, where can't be changed, but your property value can be changed. So for that, I just want to enter one text box, and we will play with the text box and get our job done. So just for interest of time, just I have already coded the text box basically. Okay, the mistake while copying. Okay, that's fine. Like input type equal text. I'm giving ID text demo, and value would be skm.net. Okay, so here if you can see, like there is a button, and on side to that we have one text box. Okay, so let me do something something interesting for you. Let's just launch our debugger tool, the development tool basically. uh, okay, and just click on this text box. So here you can see, right, input type equal to text, and here id equal to text demo, and we have value. So let me show you something interesting. Okay, so go to your console. Okay, what was the id? Let me check once. Okay, it's text demo, right? Okay, so txt demo dot value. Okay, so what it gives is called skm.net. So this comes from guys, property basically, where it is already got rendered, and the value is a property for this element in DOM, basically document object model. Now what is the attribute value and how we can check? There is a method called get attribute, and within this get attribute you just assign the corresponding attribute. What is the attribute of this element text works is value, and you can see, right, both the example or both the implementation also giving the same value. Now let me show you something magical. Scam.net tutorial. Okay, now let me show you something. Okay, first let's we go with this one. So does it change the value? Not at all. Now let me try with the value. So here you can see, right? Now it's got changed. I have not refreshed your page, nothing. Simply, what is the difference between what I try to prove over here? Like in document object model, we are just accessing the property using this one. And when the DOM, gets rendered, okay, it is pointing to this text box, current version basically. And here the current version is called scam.net. But that is attribute initially what we have set before running the application. So it is, referring to the attribute. But where it gets rendered this property, that means property value can be changed dynamically, but attribute will be returning what we had earlier. So that's the point we were talking in our last, point of our PPT. Okay, so let's move on. So attribute value can be changed, but DOM can be. Okay, so now we will start with the attribute binding. So this was something like I was highlighting on what is the difference between DOM property and how they both works in an HTML world. Okay, so like there is one exception to rule that binding happens with element properties, but in case of attribute binding, it only displays element attributes. So what I meant to say is like whenever you are just writing something or you are defining like ID, value, color, maybe background color, everything is going to be a part of property because all the element attribute is rendering to a property. But there is one exception, while attribute binding means, because there are some attributes which doesn't have its respective property, and we can take example of like calls fun, area, and SBC. These are some elements basically we can't expect it to be rendered as properties because this doesn't has any kind of properties. So that's the point, guys. Like calls fun. Calls fun is a, you know an attribute, but there is no property defined for it. So there is one more way you can go with the calls fun, but it has a different synthetically that I will show you. And area also will show in action like this. It is syntax is similar to property binding, but instead of element property, it resides with ADDR prefix followed by dot to name of element attributes. Okay, so now the main point, like how we are going to render a attribute binding or how we are implementing the attribute binding is basically the syntax. If you can see here, right, this point. So this seems like attribute binding because it enclosed with the pair of square braces. But see guys, like how we are going to access the element attribute with the binding data, which is XNM, which is coming from the backend basically. ATTR, this is this keyword, just put a dot, then access the element attribute which doesn't has its own property in DOM basically, area hyphen level. Okay, and this is nothing but here you can write anything XNM, it is just the button value. Okay, and that's it. Let's see on action. So let me just have one text, sorry, one button for you. Okay, I just put on one break row and there's a button and my data and title is supposed to be render come from the backend file. So let me just declare that as well. So let's go to its corresponding backend file, that is our TS file, and just declare it. Okay, so title is Angular 8 demo, which is going to be the value, and my data is nothing but its area. I'm just assigning. Okay, so I already have saved this, save this one as well, and then let's go to the browser. So here we are. Okay, we have a demo called Angular 8 demo because we just set it's a caption basically Angular 8 demo. Now let me show you something. Just click on this. Okay, here you can see, right guys, so area hyphen level is Angular over here. Okay, and Angular 8 demo is the title. Like I have been setting area level using the attribute binding, but here what I'm setting using interpolation just to have its caption. You can just write your name as well instead. Okay, so that's the point. Like there are some attribute like area hyphen level. Now let's go to the with an example of table so that you can understand more in a proper way. Just for interest of time, I have already written the HTML code. So let me just paste here and let me explain what I am been doing. Like I'm just simply creating a one table with border two, and we have two header is called first name and last name. And here like okay, so it's calls fun like so calls fun. Let me first declare its corresponding item to populate. Control V calls fun, and here I just want to have like two. Okay, so two calls fun. Okay, now let me prove in front of you like why it is always mandatory to have attribute binding. Let's just remove this part. Control X. So guys, can you just see the difference? It is red. Can't bind to conferences. It is a unknown property, a non-property of TD. It isn't a non-property. That means it's unknown because there is no itself a property called calls fun to this table data. Okay, so we want to be having any table definition on the corresponding property is called calls fun. That's why in this case there are some HTML attributes which doesn't have the property, so we have to go for attribute binding only whenever it is required to bind dynamically. So that's the point over here why it is useful to have your attribute binding. Okay, so just undo it attribute dot calls fun. So now here you can see, right, let me show you in browser. Yeah, exactly, here we are. Like here you can see, right, first time last time and with calls fun we have been applying using the attribute binding as we saw. Okay, just click on that. It is still applied as 2, which is coming from the backend. Even I try to just bind that 2 using property binding. Maybe you can go for interpolation also. It is not going to work because interpolation only works with the string value. It doesn't work with non-string value as we already discussed. Like it won't work with boolean, it won't work with long integer and all. Okay. So what the next point else, like similarly considered to set equals one, what we just saw right now. Okay. So there is one major difference between a call span and call span. Basically, okay, you can see this is in camel case, guys. Okay, and this is simply your normal writing. Okay, this is there is no case been applied. It's simply a lower case format. And here, when you are writing like that, call span is a property and can be binded with property binding. I discussed in previous tutorial, but call span not able to perform the same, of course. So when you are just writing with this one, it can't be bind with property binding. When you are going for, you can bind with Solacey on Action as well. So okay, so you are just you are just think of okay, I won't be going for a two binding. Okay, I just want to go for this one. Okay, there is a corresponding property. Just make it capital. Okay, so now it behaves as a property binding, and the result would be same. Okay, guys, the result is still same. You can see it is still applying to 2. That's it. Okay, so thank you viewers. Thanks for watching this series, and please visit to my blog for all the text version of my tutorials, and you can make use of this blog, and you can make use of this particular URL to get the text version of this current tutorial, which is all about the attribute binding in Angular 8. And I just want to tell, please do subscribe to my channel so that you won't be missing any kind of notifications or the postings I have been doing, and you can immediately get notified that okay, there is one video, being subscribed. So kindly do subscribe by just clicking on the watermark on the right lower corner, or you can just click on the below icon and just click on the bell icon to get it notified. Okay, so thank you viewers, thanks for watching this video session, and we will be coming with the next session soon. Till then, keep smiling, keep sharing your knowledge with others, and keep learning because learning never has an end. Thank you.